This video goes over what you need to do to complete the CSS assignment number 1 without giving you all of the solutions. Make sure you've downloaded the zip file from the assignment and unzipped it to a working directory. Up front, all you'll have is one HTML file and a bunch of image files. If you just go straight to opening up that HTML file, this is what it's going to look like without any formatting. And so formatting is the aim of the assignment. Next thing to do, open up Atom and open your working directory so it shows up over here. So the first piece of instruction is to create a CSS file for all of our formatting. Right click on your folder, or your working folder, go new file. I'm going to call it the same thing as the HTML file but with the CSS extension. That's cssAssignment1.css. The next thing I'm going to do is arrange my window so that I can see my CSS file, my HTML file, and also the preview of my final page. So to get the preview of my final page, I right click on cssExample.html, go Atom Preview, and it'll pop up here. I can close any tabs I don't need to use and drag things around until they're where I want them to be. These are the only three things I need to see, so I'm going to close this project view. I'm also going to turn on soft wrap so that any lines that are too long to be displayed, I can still see them. The next step is to tell our HTML file to use that CSS file, and that occurs in the head using a link tag. I'm going to change the color theme so that it's a little bit easier to see what I'm highlighting. If you'll notice, I highlight that. It's not very easy to see on the screen. So for the purposes of the video, I'm going to go Edit, Preferences, on the left, Themes, under Syntax Theme. I'll move this over here so you can see what it does. Syntax Theme, I'm going to change it from Atom Dark to Atom Light. So I think that makes things easier to see. So I'll get this set back up the way we had it. So carrying on, we've added the link to our cssExample.css using a link. Our relationship, it is a style sheet. The type is text CSS. And the reference is our file name. So getting into the things we're actually asked to do with our page, the first three things we're asked to do is to make a background color, set a default text size, and to change our default font. So under our CSS file, we can start off with the body, as that applies to everything that we see. I'm going to set that background color to, let's say, sky blue. I'm going to give it a font size. Remember, we discussed before, we can set our font size in pixels, centimeters, inches. I'm going to set my default font size to 0.5 centimeters. And I'm going to set my default font by setting the font family. And let's just choose this one. If we save both of our files, come over here and refresh it, we should see our background color change, the font size change, and our font change. Remember to turn on this button to keep it synchronized. And it doesn't seem that this bond schrift font is actually installed on my computer, so I'm just going to set that to Courier. The next thing we're asked to do is to change a bunch of things to do with our main heading, H1. So that applies to this. So in our CSS, we can go H1, and anything we put in here will apply to that. We're asked to give it a text color. We're asked to set a font size. We're asked to give it a background color. We're also asked to give it a border. And we're asked to center the text. We're also asked to give a padding value. When we save it, this portion should change and nothing else. The next thing you're asked to do is to style our H2 level headings. And you're given the freedom to do whatever you want with them. You just have to change two things. So I'm going to give it a color of purple. And I set a transform, scale x -1, puts it in reverse. Now we won't go any further into the transform right now, but later on you'll see you can use that transform to change a bunch of different things. Now for the image headings, or H3, is all of these that come before any of our groups of images. You can also see them over here in our HTML. We're asked to give it a specific height, a font color. We're asked to make it a specific font, and we're asked to use the text shadow and to set the margins. So a quick explanation on this text shadow here. So our first value we input is our horizontal offset for our shadow. The next one is our vertical offset for the shadow. And our final value that we specified is the color of our shadow. So let's just switch back to here and refresh this so that I can zoom in and you can see that a little bit better. There's a third distance, which is the blur radius, which we didn't specify, but if we save that here, we can see that it kind of blurs it and makes it look more like a realistic shadow. So if you got big text, you can actually see that effect. If we go back to the original size, it's not as important. You weren't asked to use it in your assignment, but if you choose to, that's fine also. We're asked to set the height of all of our images based on the section of our page that they fall under. So let's just start off by setting a default image height, so that if there's any images outside of any of those, they'll get set to that. Oops. So if we just tell it that, all of our images all the way along get set to that. And we seem to be missing a bunch of images, or perhaps I've named them incorrectly. OSCC7 is the only one that seems to be correct. OSCC. In the directory, all of our OSCC images are OSCC with the number .jpg in capitals, with the exception of OSCC7, wherein over here everything is with lowercase. So depending on your system, it may or may not work as specified. The easiest thing to do would be to change it here from lowercase to uppercase, but the proper solution is to fix it here. Switch back here and refresh. Okay, there we go. So I want you to notice within our images there's two text bits. Now I want you to find an image and replace those ones that fail. So if we look over here, we're given a line that says we're looking for OSCCX.jpg, which does not exist. Okay, back to setting the heights of our dogs. The best thing to do is to use classes to set our image heights according to where they fall in our page. So let's first set a class for cssAssignment. So within our image tag, we would go class as equal to cssAssignment. And now we could do that all the way through and go through here and use image.cssAssignment and set the height here. So that sets the height for any image tagged with the class cssAssignment. But it's more efficient if we instead put the class up in our division. And then instead of saying cssAssignment image.cssAssignment, we can go div.cssAssignment image. So now that sets our image height. So any image that falls within a div with the class cssAssignment, it sets to this height. And I've broken something because we lost a... Okay. So let's carry on and do all of these. Now if we wanted our OSCC images to be the default height, we could just leave that out. And that'll just set our OSCC images to this default height of 1.5 centimeters. That gives us all of our desired image heights. Next, we're asked to add a border around our OSCC images. That didn't work, so I think I did something wrong over in our HTML. Yeah, there's a missing S on class. And there we go. Next, we're asked to center align all of our images. So we can do that to all of our classes by separating them with commas. Scroll through, make sure we caught them all. We're asked to give a border around our cssAssignment div. Also one around our fruits. And about both types of dogs. So that should get you to where you can finish the assignment without giving away all of the solutions. And I'll post this CSS example.css file for your reference.